A U.S. Homeschool Law Guide. Chapter 1. Homeschool Law by State. State Department of Education Homeschool Offices. Contact the following state homeschooling offices for information about teacher qualifications. Usually the parent, often, just a high school diploma is required, subjects required, compulsory days of schooling per year, ages required to be schooled, tests, standards and other rules. Alabama. Alabama State Department of Education. Director, Prevention and Support Services. epub 302101. Montgomery, Alabama 36104. 334-242-9700. alesta.edu. Alaska. Alaska Department of Education and Early Development. 801 West 10th St. Juneau, Alaska 99801. 907-465-2800. Webmaster at eed.state.ak.us. educ.state.ak.us. Arizona. Arizona Department of Education. 1535 West Jefferson St. Phoenix, Arizona 85007. 602-542-3184. ade.state.az.us. Director of Homeschooling Services. Maricopa County School Superintendent. 301 West Jefferson. Number 660. Phoenix, Arizona 85003. 602-506-3144. maricopa.gov/schools/homeschool.aspschools.maricopa.gov. Arkansas. Arkansas Department of Education. 4. State Capitol Mall. Little Rock, Arkansas 72201. 501-682-1874. arcdu.state.ar.us. arcdu.k12.ar.us. California. California Department of Education. 721 Capitol Mall. Room 552. Sacramento, California 95814. 916-657-2453. cde.ca.gov. cde.ca.gov/writeform.htm. Colorado. Department of Education. 201 East Colfax Avenue. Denver, Colorado 80203. 303-866-6600. Fax 303-830-0793. dam_a at cde.state.co.us. cde.state.co.us/cdeedsurf/homeschool.htm. Connecticut. Connecticut Department of Education. Room 246A. 165 Capitol Avenue. Hartford, Connecticut 06106. 860-566-8263. state.ct.us/SDE. Delaware. Delaware State Department of Education. John G. Townsend Building. epub 1402. Dover, Delaware 19903. 302-739-4583. doe.state.de.us. District of Columbia. District of Columbia Public Schools. 825 North Capitol St. Northeast. 7th floor. Washington, D.C. 20002. 202-724-4222. Webmaster at k12.dc.us. k12.dc.us/dcps/home.html. Florida. Florida Department of Education. 325 West Gaines St. Number 532. Tallahassee, Florida 32399. 850-487-8428. fldoe.org. Georgia. Georgia Department of Education. 205 Butler St. Atlanta, Georgia 30334. 404-656-2800. help.desk@do.k12.ga.us. doe.k12.ga.us/index.asp. Hawaii. Hawaii Department of Education. 641 18th Avenue Building V. Room 201. Honolulu, Hawaii 96816. Phone 808-733-9895. Fax 808-586-3234. doe.k12.hi.us. Idaho. Idaho Department of Education. POB 83720. Boise, Idaho 83720. 208-332-6800. sde.state.id.us/department. Illinois. Illinois State Board of Education. 100 North 1st St. Springfield, Illinois 62777. 217-782-3950. isbe.state.il.us. Indiana. Indiana Department of Education. State House, Room 229. Indianapolis, Indiana 46204. 317-232-6610. Fax 317-232-8004. webmaster@do.state.in.us. doe.state.in.us. Iowa. Iowa Department of Education. Grimes State Office Building. Des Moines, Iowa 50319. 515-281-5001. webmaster@ed.state.ia.us. state.ia.us/educate. Kansas. Kansas State Department of Education. 120 Southeast 10th Avenue. Topeka, Kansas 66612. 785-296-3201. ksbe.state.ks.us. Kentucky. Kentucky Department of Education. 500 Merrow St. 8th floor. Capitol Plaza Tower. Frankfort, Kentucky 40601. 502-564-3791. Fax 502-564-6470. webmaster@kde.state.ky.us. kde.state.ky.us. Louisiana. Louisiana Department of Education. Home Study Program. POB 94064. Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70804. 225-342-3473. doe.state.la.us. Maine. Maine Department of Education. 23 State House Station. Augusta, Maine 04333. 207-287-5922. state.me.us/education. maine.gov. Maryland. Maryland State Department of Education. Director, Student Services. 200 West Baltimore St. Baltimore, Maryland 21201. 410-767-0288. msde.state.md.us. Massachusetts. State Department of Education. 350 Main St. Malden, Massachusetts 02148. 781-388-3300. do.mass.edu@do.mass.edu. doe.mass.edu. Michigan. Michigan Department of Education. POB 30009. Lansing, Michigan 48909. 517-335-4074. mdeweb@michigan.gov. michigan.gov/mde. Minnesota. Department of Children, Families, and Learning. 1500 Highway 36 West. Roseville, Minnesota 55113. 651-582-8288. 8246. Children at state.mn.us. educ.state.mn.us. Mississippi. Mississippi Department of Education. epub 771. Jackson, Mississippi 39205. 601-359-2098. mde.k12.ms.us. Missouri. Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. epub 480. Jefferson City, Missouri 65102. 573-751-3527. Fax 573-751-8613. dees.state.mo.us. Montana. Montana Office of Public Instruction. 1227 11th St. Helena, Montana 59602. 406-444-3095. opi.state.mt.us. Nebraska. Nebraska Department of Education. 301 Centennial Mall. Lincoln, Nebraska 68509. 402-471-2784. nde.state.ne.us. Nevada. Nevada Department of Education. 700 East 5th St. Carson City, Nevada 89701. 775-687-9160. nde.state.nv.us. k12.nv.us. New Hampshire. New Hampshire Department of Education. State Office Park South. 101 Pleasant St. Concord, New Hampshire 03301. 603-271-3144. Fax 603-271-1953. ed.state.nh.us. New Jersey. New Jersey Department of Education. 100 Riverview Plaza. epub 500. Trenton, New Jersey 08625. 609-292-1126. state.nj.us/education. New Mexico. New Mexico Department of Education. Management Support and Intervention. 300 Don Gasper. Santa Fe, New Mexico 87501. 505-827-6582. Esperia at sde.state.nm.us. sde.state.nm.us. New York. New York State Education Department. Office for Non-Public School Services. Room 481. Albany, New York 12234. 518-474-3879. mscgen@mail.niced.gov. niced.gov. North Carolina. North Carolina Division of Non-Public Education. 1309 Mail Service Center. Raleigh, North Carolina 27699. 919-733-4276. ncdnpe.org. North Dakota. North Dakota Department of Public Instruction. 600 East Boulevard. Bismarck, North Dakota 58505. 701-328-4572. Fax 701-328-2461. dpi.state.nd.us. Ohio. Ohio Department of Education. 65 Front St. Columbus, Ohio 43215. 614-466-2937. ode.state.oh.us. Oklahoma. Oklahoma State Department of Education. 2500 North Lincoln Boulevard. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73105. 405-521-3301. Fax 405-521-6205. sde.state.ok.us. Oregon. Oregon Department of Education. 255, capital St Northeast. Salem, or 97310. 503-378-3569. Fax, 503-378-5156. ode.webmaster@state.or.us. ode.state.or.us. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Department of Education. School Services Unit. 333 Market St. 5th floor. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania 17126. 717-787-4860. pde.state.pa.us. Rhode Island. Rhode Island Department of Education. 225 Westminster St. 4th floor. Providence, Rhode Island 02903. 401-222-4600, extension 2503. ridoe.net. South Carolina. South Carolina Department of Education. 1429 Senate St. Columbia, South Carolina 29201. 803-734-8493. mycschools.com. sde.state.sc.us. South Dakota. South Dakota Department of Education. 700 Governors Drive. Pierre, South Dakota 57501. 605-773-6934. Fax, 605-773-3782. state.sd.us/DECA. Tennessee. Tennessee State Department of Education. 2730 Island Home Boulevard. Knoxville, Tennessee 37920. 865-579-3749. state.tn.us/education. Texas. Texas Education Agency. 1701 Congress Avenue. Austin, Texas 78701. 512-463-9630. tea.state.tx.us. Utah. Utah State Office of Education. 250 East 500 South. Salt Lake City, Utah 84111. 801-538-7801. usoe.k12.ut.us. Vermont. Vermont Department of Education. 120 State St. Montpelier, Vermont 05620. 802-828-5406. state.vt.us/educ. Virginia. Virginia Department of Education. POG 2120. Richmond, Virginia 23218. 804-786-9421. pen.k12.va.us. Washington. Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. Old Capitol Building. POG 47200. Olympia, Washington 98504. 360-664-3574. webmaster@osbi.wednet.edu. k12.wa.us. West Virginia. West Virginia Department of Education. 1900 Kanawha Boulevard. East. Building 6, Room 262. Charleston, West Virginia 25305. 304-558-2118. Fax, 304-558-6268. wvita.state.wv.us. Wisconsin. Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. 125 South Webster St. POB 7841. Madison, Wisconsin 53707. 608-266-3390. 800-441-4563. dpi.state.wi.us. Wyoming. Wyoming Department of Education. Hathaway Building. Second floor. 2300 Capitol Avenue. Cheyenne, Wyoming 82002. 307-777-7670. K12.wy.us. State homeschool laws. The most common homeschooling rules imposed by the governments are: number of days of compulsory schooling per year, formal qualifications of the people teaching them, subjects taught, the homeschooling format. This can go from solitary learning at home to the requirement that a small, private school be set up for a group of kids with like-minded parents. 20 states, plus the District of Columbia, require very little or no notification to the state government of the intent to homeschool. You can homeschool without going through the government bureaucracy to get permission. Homeschooling is legal in all 50 states, but there are different rules in every state. If you have trouble with your local school board in your efforts to homeschool, contact your local homeschooling organization for assistance. The following 9 states do not request any notification of your intent to homeschool: Alaska, Indiana, New Jersey, Idaho, Michigan, Oklahoma, Illinois, Missouri, Texas. States with a minimal amount of homeschooling regulations are as follows. You just notify them of your intent to homeschool and they leave you alone: Alabama, Arizona, California, Delaware, District of Columbia, Kentucky, Kansas, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, New Mexico, Wyoming. The following states have a medium level of regulations for homeschooling: Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Iowa, Louisiana, Maryland, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Virginia, Wisconsin. The following states have the most regulations regarding homeschooling: Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Utah, Vermont, Washington, West Virginia. Homeschool law websites: flora.org/homeschool-ca/achb/legislation.html, Homeschool Laws Canada. homedmagazine.com/hsrsc/hsrsc_lws.rgs.html. hslda.org/laws. nhen.org/leginfo/state_list.html. Association of Homeschool Attorneys ahsa-usa.org. Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates. COPA.net. American Homeschool Association. POB 3142. Palmer, Alaska 99645. 800-236-3278. aha@americanhomeschoolassociation.org. AmericanHomeschoolAssociation.org. Home Education Magazine. Sloda Court Report. Homeschool Legal Defense Association. POB 3000. Purcellville, Virginia 20134. 540-338-5600. Fax: 540-338-2733. hslda.org/court report. Homeschooling laws. Homeschool Legal Defense Association. POB 159. Paonian Springs, Virginia 20129. 540-338-5600. Fax: 540-338-2733. info@hslda.org. hslda.org. hslda.org/laws. Info on homeschool laws in a book, about $20. National Home Education Research Institute. POB 13939. Salem, Oregon 97309. 503-364-1490. Mail at nhary.org. nhary.org. Periodical Homeschool Researcher. Homeschool Laws by State. Try this formula. slota.org/laws/default.asp, state equals. hslda.org/laws/default.asp $state=sign-al. hslda.org/laws/default.asp $state=sign-az. hslda.org/laws/default.asp $state=sign-gu. Find these state education laws at your local libraries. Alabama. Alabama Code 16-28-3, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Alaska. Alaska Statutes 14-30.010 and 14:45-120, a, some kind of testing standards. Arizona. Arizona Reverend Statute, 15-802-15-805 and 15-745, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Arkansas. Arkansas Statute N. 6-18-201 and 6-15-201, some kind of testing standards. California. California Education Code, 48222, 48224 and 51745, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Colorado. Colorado Reverend Statute 2233-104 and 2233-104.5, some kind of testing standards. Connecticut. Connecticut General Statutes and 10-184, some kind of testing standards. D.C. Washington. D.C. Code 31-401 and 402, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Delaware. Delaware Code 14-2702 and 14-2703, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Florida. Florida State N. .232.01, some kind of testing standards. Georgia. Official Code of Georgia N. 20-2-690, some kind of testing standards. Hawaii. Hawaii Rev. Stat 298-9, some kind of testing standards. Idaho. Idaho Code 33-202, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Illinois. Illinois Rev. Stat. Chapter 122, Paragraph 26-1, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Indiana. Indiana Stat. N 20-8.1-3-17 and 20-8.1-334, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. ai.org/legislative/ic/code/title20/AR33/ch2.html, compulsory school attendance law. Iowa. Iowa Code N 299A.1, some kind of testing standards. Kansas. Kansas State N 72-1111 to 72-1113, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Kentucky. Kentucky Rev. Stat 159-010 to 159.990, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Louisiana. Louisiana Rev. Stat 17:221, A, and 17.236, some kind of testing standards. Maine. Maine Rev. Stat. N 20A5001A, some kind of testing standards. Maryland. N. Code of Maryland, Chapter 22, 7-301, A. Massachusetts. Massachusetts General Law 76-1, no state law, could be local law about testing. Michigan. SB 679, Amendment A, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Minnesota. Minnesota Stat. AN 120.101 and 127.20, some kind of testing standards. Mississippi. Mississippi Code Annals 37-13-91, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Missouri. Annals Missouri STAT 167-031 and 167-042, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Montana. Montana Code AN 20-5-102 and 20-5-109, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Nebraska. Nebraska Rev. STAT 79-201, 79-1701, 85-607, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Nevada. Nevada Rev. STAT 392.070, some kind of testing standards. New Hampshire. New Hampshire Rev. Stat. AN 193.1 and 193A, some kind of testing standards. New Jersey. New Jersey Stat. AN 18A.38-25, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. New Mexico. New Mexico Stat. AN 21-1-2.1 and 22-1-2, some kind of testing standards. New York. New York Education Law 3204, 3205, 3210, 3212, some kind of testing standards. North Carolina. NC Gen. STAT 115C 378, 115C 547, 115C 563 to 115C 565, some kind of testing standards. North Dakota. NDCENT Code 1534.1-03 and 15.34.1-04, some kind of testing standards. Ohio. Ohio Rev. Code 330134-04, 3321.03 and 3321.04, some kind of testing standards. Oklahoma. OK Stat. AN, Title 70, 10-105, A, and B, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Oregon. Oregon Rev. Stat 339.010, 339.030 and 339.035, some kind of testing standards. Pennsylvania. PA Stat. AN. Title 24, 13-1326 and 13-1327, some kind of testing standards. Rhode Island. RI General Law 16-19-1, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. South Carolina. Code of Laws of SC AN 59-65-10 and subsections 40, 45 and 47, some kind of testing standards. South Dakota. SD Comp. Law 13-27-2, 13-27-3 and 49-6-3001, some kind of testing standards. Tennessee. TN Code N 49-6-3001 and 3050, some kind of testing standards. Texas. TX Education Code 4.25, 21.032 through 21.040, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Utah. UT Code N. 53A11-1012, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Vermont. VT Stat. N. Title 16, 1121, 16, 11, 166B, some kind of testing standards. Virginia. VA Code 22.1 to 254.1, some kind of testing standards. Washington. WA Rev. Code 28A.200.228A.225.10, some kind of testing standards. West Virginia. WV 18-18-1, some kind of testing standards. Wisconsin. WI Stat. N 118.15 and 118.165, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Wyoming. WYSTAT 21-4-101. American Samoa. As Code 16.0302-0308, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Guam. Guam Code N. Title 17, 6101-6109, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Northern Marianas. Mariana Code 3-1141, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Puerto Rico. PR Laws N. Title 18, Sections 71-81, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Virgin Islands. 6 Code N. Title 17, 81-97, no state testing standard but check with the local school board. Officials meet with homeschooled children twice a year. Homeschool attendance requirements. Alabama. No requirement. Alaska. Up to 180 days. Arizona. No requirement. Arkansas. No requirement. California. Up to 175 days. Colorado. Up to 172 days. Connecticut. 180 days. Delaware. 180 days. District of Columbia. Follow the same schedule as public schools. Florida. No requirement. Georgia. 180 days. Hawaii. No requirement. Idaho. No requirement. Illinois. 176 days. Indiana. 180 days. Iowa. 148 days. Kansas. 186 days. Kentucky. 185 days. Louisiana. 180 days. Maine. 175 days. Maryland. No requirement. Massachusetts. 900 hours, elementary. 990 hours, secondary. Michigan. No requirement. Minnesota. No requirement. Mississippi. No requirement. Missouri. 1000 hours. Montana. 180 days. Nebraska. 1032 hours elementary. 1080 hours high school. Nevada. 180 days. New Hampshire. No requirement. New Jersey. No requirement. New Mexico. Same schedule as public schools. New York. 180 days. North Carolina. 9 months. North Dakota. 175 days. Ohio. 900 hours. Oklahoma. No requirement. Oregon. No requirement. Pennsylvania. 180 days. Rhode Island. Same schedule as public schools. South Carolina. 180 days. South Dakota. 175 days. Tennessee. 180 days. Texas. No requirement. Utah. Same schedule as schools. Vermont. 175 days. Virginia. Up to 180 days. Washington. Grades 1 to 3, 2,700 hours total for all 3 grades. Grades 4 to 6, 2,970 hours total for all 3 grades. Grades 7 to 8, 1980 hours total for the 2 grades. Grades 9 to 12, 4,320 hours total for all 4 grades. West Virginia. Up to 180 days. Wisconsin. 875 hours. Wyoming. 175 days.